What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp here. It's the Fightful Wrestling Podcast for March 17th. That means we're here with Shane Helms, and we had some technical errors the first time we tried it, but we had a discussion about how Shane Helms doesn't necessarily always get himself in the middle of shit, but other people do. Either way, you're sitting there, you've got your boots on, you're trudging through the shit.
See, the thing is, I'm friends with everybody. That's how I get involved in the shit, just because I'm friends with everybody. So I'm kind of just, I know everybody, and so I just get tagged, in real life terms, I get tagged in this shit. So I catch that shrapnel heat from time to time, but you can't hurt me, man. I'm the invincible Kid Vicious still to this day.
I'll tell you what, man, in 10 years when Rachel Maddow releases your 2005 tax returns and we see Rebby Hardy claimed you.
There you go.
It's gonna be
there you go.
Shit, it'll all come down on you. We got plenty to talk about. Shane's got some projects. Of course, we've got last week's Impact. Now, we're filming this on Wednesday, so I won't be talking about this week's Impact. I'll be talking about last week's because a lot of stuff happened. A lot of stuff people liked, didn't like, criticized, some things that Shane was outspoken on as he watched the show. But Shane, I noticed that you're doing some work with Mike Kingston, who I will be interviewing pretty soon.
Yeah, Mike Kingston is the creator and entrepreneur behind the Headlocked comic. It's a comic book about wrestling. And, I've talked about this before, both in public and with Mike, how I was skeptical at first about the project because I was like, what did this guy really know about wrestling? But it turns out, man, this dude has done a ton of research. He's great friends with Jerry Lawler and a lot of other people in the business. And so he really knows his stuff. And he's writing about, about the world of pro wrestling, from different angles, wrestling angles, but from different angles, different stories and stuff like that. So I got a chance to write a little short story for him, and we turned it into a motion comic. I posted it up on Twitter today. So go to my timeline if you can find it, because I know I tweet a lot about random shit. But it's on my Twitter, it's on my Facebook. You can't really put links on Instagram too well, but if I did, I would. So, but yeah, find it. It's a really good little 5-minute, short 5-minute little story. So I was very proud of it. What'd you think about it?
I liked it. And of course, we're going to have that up on Fightful.com by the time that you all read this. It'll be under our videos section. Kingston's worked with a lot of guys. Like, it's not just you. Booker T, RVD, Tony Atlas, John Morrison, Ken Anderson. I know Christopher Daniels. I talked to him about Headlocked once. Sam Shaw, AJ Styles, I think, and Kazarian.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there are a lot of names getting involved.
Yeah, a lot of guys. And some guys do short stories, much like I've done. Mike writes the meat of the book, but he also adds these little short stories to it. But I'll be honest, mine's the best of all the guest star writers. Mine's the best,
So this, I'm unfamiliar with basically the motion comic thing, but I like the idea of it, where basically you kind of watch or listen to a comic.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like fully animated as you would see any regular cartoon. Just it kind of takes stills from the book and just put added something to it. Just a little special effect action, CGI action. I don't know if CGI applies, but something like that, just to spice it up a little bit, so you're not just looking at stills. And I'm very proud of it. I'm happy with the way it turned out.
It's crazy how technology has enabled this type of stuff.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It would have cost them $100,000 to do that 15 years ago.
Right. Like, I mean, you think about how long it used to take for them to create like an episode of South Park or The Simpsons. Matt Parker or whatever the hell the names are, Matt Stone, Trey Parker, it used to take them like days and days, maybe even weeks, to do little cardboard cutouts of construction paper and move them frame by frame. Now they barely get their episodes off in time because they're like, let's wait till 2 or 3 days before we even start animating.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Hey, Chet, have you noticed the shirt, though? I know we always talk about the T-shirt. Check this one out.
Was it a Roman Reigns shirt? What is it?
It's the North Carolina flag on the Millennium Falcon, or as Karen calls it, the Enterprise from Star Trek.
Well, I'm in full North Carolina, all of it. can eat a fat one right now because it's NCAA tournament time.
Yeah, we're going to put a fat one right up y'all's Kentucky ass.
Speaking of, guess who Kentucky plays Friday night? Jim Nielsen's own Northern Kentucky University. The man who talks more trash about UK than anybody. I can't wait to just devour those tears.
But what are you going to do if it's the other way? What are you going to do if the shoe is on the other foot and that other foot goes up y'all's Kentucky ass? Then what are you going to do, Sean Sapp, if that is your real name?
Well, my real name is Sean Ross Sapp.
Well, nobody cares about your middle name, man. Nobody cares about Ross.
Everybody does because
didn't you watch Friends? Nobody cared about Ross. Ross didn't even care about Ross.
Jennifer Aniston did for a while. That's good enough for me.
That works. I'll take
that does work. Jim Nielsen, coming for you. We had Impact last week. It was the first of a new regime. There were a lot of things that happened on this show, a ton of things that happened on this show. The first thing I saw that you kind of addressed was WWE was mentioned several times.
Yeah.
Well, the first two, I got to say, I actually liked the Jeremy Borash, Josh Matthews segment. Josh Matthews would be absolutely money as a heel announcer, or not a heel announcer. I don't like him as a heel announcer. As a heel manager, good God, he's coming for your spot, Shane.
He can have it. He can have it.
I thought that he was really good. I did notice one thing that made me laugh, though. Josh, after talking about running a men's fashion blog, Josh Matthews puts his feet up on the table, and I noticed holes in his shoes. What, Josh? What are you doing, Josh?
Well, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that now. If there are indeed holes in these shoes and not just holes in your television, I'm gonna have to call him out on that personally. Can you see it on the show? Well, obviously you saw it on the show. You didn't see it live, so yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
live there.
Maybe
this summer though. Okay, so Jeremy Borash is a part of the commentary team. I really like this move. Why do you think that was made?
Just to add
Josh
a little bit more, just add something there. Josh actually gets a lot of heat from that crowd, from that Impact Zone crowd. He's generated a lot of heat online, with his assertion that he is the greatest, commentator of all time. So, it's doing good. It's translating well. People genuinely hate him. So, it's fun to capitalize on that. I've said it a couple of times backstage that we should capitalize on it because people hate him more than they hate anybody on the roster. And so, when you got a commentator like that, why it doesn't work for the most of the time is because there's no payoff. Like with Michael Cole, it was not in the ring and do anything. It was going to be garbage. Sure, he'll tell you he's not going to get in the ring and have a good performance of any kind. If something leads to that, to like some kind of in-ring altercation, Josh has got some good training behind him. He wasn't a bad little professional wrestler back in the day. So there is opportunity for a payoff to come. I'm not sure exactly where the story's going, but I like the idea that there's a payoff in hand instead of, there are a lot of personalities in wrestling over the last decade that go out there and generate heat, but there's no payoff because they can't do anything in the ring. You look how great Paul Heyman is on the mic, but okay, he's going to get heat for somebody else, but where's the payoff going to be for him talking all that shit? It's going to be very minimal. Same thing with Vicky Guerrero. Same thing, with not Josh Matthews right now, because I'm hoping that there is going to be a payoff. But anytime you got somebody in that mouthy situation, what's the payoff going to be? They can't just get away with it, because to me that's not realistic. At some point when somebody's talking shit, you got to go beat their ass. That's how things happen in the real world. And that's how they happen in the world of pro wrestling, or at least they should.
Yeah, that was one of my assertions of this situation. Like, people sometimes forget Josh is a trained wrestler. I mean, Tough Enough was a long time ago, but he even got in the ring shortly after that. He was involved in a little thing with Booker T, JBL, and Orlando Jordan and SmackDown back on the day. So I definitely like that idea. And you, like you said, the crowd was hot for it. The crowd was. They were like, you think you're the best and all this? They were hot for this.
I like it. We were laughing backstage. Jeremy Borash was going off, so that was really good. I'm pretty sure some of that comes from a place of Jeremy's wanted to say some of those things for a long time. So, it's fun to capitalize on some of that real emotion too.
There were some people that criticized maybe the work shoot area of it, but this felt real enough to me without like being ridiculous. I liked it. I liked their initial segment. Now, I didn't necessarily like it throughout the show, but I thought the Pope was actually very funny and like coming between them. I think he's very, very underrated as a color commentator personally. Like little nuances he adds, like when in the X Division match, when he says, this ring is really beneficial to these guys because of the tighter ropes. It's little things like that that a color guy adds that you don't know or that somebody doesn't know. That's where I think he stands apart.
Yeah, for sure. I think I tweeted he looked like he was in a scene of the movie Get Out in between Borash and Josh Matthews in there yelling at each other. Looked a little uncomfortable, but it was funny.
Yeah, go back and watch Pope's reaction when Josh Matthews pretended not to know who Gordon Soley was. That was a good one. Cody Rhodes' mic work in Impact Wrestling has been awesome. I've loved him as a heel. Man, that's been so good. I can't wait for Moose to kick his ass.
Yeah, imagine that. So you want the babyface to kick the heel's ass. Imagine that. Wow, what a strange concept.
He's so good at it because, like, when he's on the screen, I'm like, yes, Cody Rhodes is on screen. Can't wait to see Moose spear him.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to how this all plays out, too.
Why is Eddie Kingston wrestling that damn suit?
It's not. I'm sure it's not his decision. It's kind of what they're doing with the DCC. He would much rather be in some of the stuff he wore in the Indies, and I actually had to talk with him about updating that look a little bit. He's kind of going with the pants, kind of the Hashimoto baggy, tight pants. He's a big fan of Japanese wrestling, so that's what he's going for there, trying to incorporate some of that into the DCC storyline as well. So, I would hate to have to wrestle in a suit.
What kind of On-It supplements you think Reno Scum are taking?
On-It, some of them is I don't know, Alpha Brain.
All of them.
Yeah,
all of them. I like their finish.
I ain't never taken that. I ain't never taken that shit. I can promise you that.
So they were on TV with a different set of tag belts. What do you know what the thought process was in that?
Well, it's implementing something I've been pushing for ever since I've been in. I know we talked about it before on here. Just why do we have to ignore every other wrestling company out there? Why does it have to be these rules that pro wrestling has put in place for itself? We don't have to do that. This just came up on my time hop gimmick. If you know what time hop is, I'm pretty sure a lot of people do. Something I tweeted over a year ago is like, imagine a wrestling show that didn't talk about just one company. Imagine a wrestling show about, if you watch ESPN and they only talked about one sport, and then inside that sport they only talked about one team, it would be nowhere near as interesting. And I mean, like a show like SportsCenter. SportsCenter is interesting because it talks about everything. And so, and I know that weirds people out a little bit. It's like, oh, they're talking about WWE too much. You're like, how do you ignore WWE when you're in the world of professional wrestling? That's just nonsensical to me. And it's not realistic. So when you got these guys and they're, the tag team champions, as long as it's a good, reputable company, I don't see any problem with bringing them out there and letting them have their belts. I would love to have, companies like PWG and all these other companies be represented by on our show, and not just to put over whatever. I mean, the product is the show. It isn't just, whatever letters come before the wrestling company. I don't think it has to be like that. So it's an experimentation, trial and error to see what goes on. But I think it adds something. It's it's cool to me. You don't see things like that in like MMA or fighting. Like if some guy is a boxing champion for WBC, but he happens to be the champion of the WBA, they don't just ignore that shit. They highlight it. They talk about it.
We're about to see even more of that now because apparently WME, IMG, who own UFC, want their announcers to be more straightforward announcers as opposed to like pay-per-view shills. So that's going to be something that we see more of. Plus, I mean, they got television rights deals coming up next year. Who knows? Maybe Fox doesn't get them back. Maybe ESPN gets them. Who knows where shoot announcing will be in the future. Braxton Sutter and Allie are a joy to watch. They are that angle. It worked because every time I see them, I'm like, oh,
yeah, it is, man. That wedding thing was still my favorite wedding of all time. So it's really good that it's working out, and they both seem to have elevated. Came out better for that story, and so did Lauren Van Ness. Laura.
Don't understand how excited I am to see drunk Laurel.
Yeah. Yeah, is that your fantasy? Is that your female fantasy? Just a broken spirit of a woman.
Right up there is my fantasy, sir. I'm pretty sure this will be the one show she decides to watch if I don't say that. So
look at you. You're softy.
Caleb Conley loses. Caleb Conley loses. Hopefully he doesn't get suicidal over it.
That was a full-way, right? So didn't three guys lose? It wasn't just the one guy?
Yeah, sure.
Or does just the one guy lose? How does that go down in the record books if you're in one of these multi-person matches? You're not the one that gets pinned. That shouldn't be an L because you're not the one that lost, but you didn't really win either. So
I got one for you. So by the way, I got that WWE rule book. Thank God it's tax deductible because it was fucking garbage, by the way. But we talked about it. Was funny because I had people saying WWE stole your idea. I'm like, shit. You think they can put out a book in the month and a half since me and Shane did
you bought the book?
Yeah, it's a tax deduction, man.
So what made you think that was going to be a good book? How could anybody think? Why would you give a shit?
I had to read it for work.
Oh my God.
I'm doing a show on this thing. Well, it's not worth doing.
I want to see your tax returns. If that's a deduction, I want to see your tax returns.
It is it is tax deductible. I can't help it. Hey, you buy it, it's tax deductible for you too. Anyway, say there's a fatal four-way tag, not fatal four-way. There's a triple threat tag match on WrestleMania on the Raw side of things, right? There are no DQs in a triple threat tag match or a triple threat match. Why the fuck are people tagging in and out?
Because, see, we've addressed this. We talked about this on this show, and we've solved this problem on Impact. And by we, I mean my ass. Because that's when I came up with, why don't we just eject them? You can't disqualify them because then somebody has to be a winner. So we started ejecting people out of these multi-person matches. And that way you can, if somebody's out there breaking the rules. Now, to your point, though, if you said there's no rules whatsoever in a tag match, all hell should just break loose. Why are they out there doing that? Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the Siena match. Rachel Ellering got in a lot of offense.
Mm-hmm.
She was like shaking off Siena's punches, stuff like that. How did you feel about that?
It showing for she is a credited power lifter, and in wrestling, if you're strong, punches just don't affect you like they would affect a regular person. So which we know isn't true in the case of Floyd Mayweather punching Big Show's nose off. Just because you're big doesn't mean punches don't affect you. But
well, that is one of the greatest boxers of all time as well, for being fair.
Yeah, but the thing is, that was that whole deal. You see it in wrestling all the time. You see a big guy get hit, and he's got this really weak ass cell. Like he just throws his arms back. Like almost all big guys do it, and especially in the beginning part of their career. Like I can't sell for a little man here. It's like, man, fuck, I will punch you right in the damn face. Let's see what happens. I didn't think that match was bad. I could go back and watch it again. No, it didn't stand out to me. The punches didn't bother me enough. I'm guessing it bothered you. You thought Siena should have been whooping our ass?
I mean, that's just me from an outsider. I'm not running the damn show.
Well, fuck, I know you're not running the show. You don't got to tell me shit that I already know. I was just asking you. That bothered you that she wasn't selling the punches?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, Siena's like a big fucking monster. Like she's literally running into people and killing them. Well, not killing them, literally.
That's mean. That's mean to say. How do you feel about a fatal four-way and nobody dies? Is that false advertisement?
That's true. That's very true. What if there's a triple threat and everybody's just nice to each other and there's no actual threatening in the match?
I don't like it.
It sounds terrible. Bruce Prichard comes out and he puts over his podcast. He talks about some of the angles that he was a part of, brings out Bobby Lashley. Alberto El Patron then follows. There looked like there was some sort of editing error here because it clipped and you couldn't really hear a reaction to Alberto El Patron.
Yeah, I think that it was they had Alberto Del Patron on the screen.
Yeah,
like somebody that was in the screen had a and that's you always got people in these positions, and it would be helpful if they actually watched wrestling, but that's not always the case, and that's not a knock on anybody. There are people that work in the music industry that don't like whatever type of music they happen to be working for, at concert events and shit like that. So it was something that slipped through the crack, and we had to edit it out. And that sound staging, and I've said this a million times, and I brought it up to them a million times, like that crowd is so much louder than it is than what comes off on the TV. And I don't know how to fix that because it's not my area. All I can do is keep mentioning it to them. But it's a sound stage. How in the hell is it the sound not being picked up? We're on keeping it 100 with Cody this week. Disco was mentioning like it's got to be an easy fix. It's got in this day and age, it's got to be an easy fix. And I kind of feel like that a little bit, but at the same time, if it was that easy, it would be fixed. But it's not. It's not like anybody on our show wants to drown the crowd out. But something in the voiceovers when they add the commentary at the end, I don't know what's going on, but that crowd, and there are times, no doubt, I'm not trying to say they're always loud. Don't get me wrong. There are times when they're exhausted and they're not into whatever they're watching, but the times when they are involved and they're loud as shit, it doesn't come off on our televised product as well as it's happening live.
How'd you think Bruce did? It's been a while since he's been in the ring in front of a camera. I think that showed a little bit, but ultimately right now, that guy's one of the most over guys in wrestling.
I don't know if he's one of the most over guys in wrestling, but he did really well. I mean, he's a great talker. He's always been a good talker. They're definitely one of the most over guys in wrestling podcast at the moment.
Yeah. That's what they're trying to grab is some of his viewers.
Yeah. Some of his listeners. So yeah, without a doubt, he's never had a problem, with the gift of gab department, so to speak. So that's where he shines at. He's a very creative person. He, it's always good to have people that have been there. So just in case you suggest something and they're like, well, we actually tried that back in Houston in 1902 and it didn't work, and that doesn't mean it won't work today, but at least you have, a little bit more information to go by. So I look forward to working with Bruce.
You mentioned that. What do you think the policy is? Like, is there a statute of limitations on using old angles, perhaps? Because, everybody remembers and loves the Attitude Era. That was like, a lot of that was 20 years ago. A lot of kids have no idea what the Attitude Era even was.
I don't think there's anything wrong in kind of retelling a story as long as you add something new to the mix. I mean, we've told the David and Goliath story a gazillion times. That doesn't mean that we should never tell it again, but you got to switch it up a little bit, add a modern day flavor to things, So, I mean, the good guy versus bad guy is the oldest story in time, and we can't get away from that. We're going to be telling those types of stories. So, I don't know if you have to go back and copy it 100% detail for detail, but it's like a good movie remake, and there have been a couple good movie remakes. The latest Star Trek, that Wrath of Khan remake, where they just switched up quite a few things. And the Wrath of Khan is one of my favorite movies of all time, but that remake was spectacular. It's the same story. They just added some new twists and new new elements to it. So I don't think there's a statute of limitations on it, but you don't want to do it like the very next week or anything. Some story you told just the week before. Just give it a little breathing room, and sometimes what's old is new again. And sometimes what's old needs to fucking stay old.
The end of this segment featured Bobby Lashley, Alberto El Patron, and EC3, like all face-to-face. This felt really, really good. I mean, you got a really protected guy in EC3. You got the champion in Lashley. You have a proven commodity in Alberto El Patron. And they're all ready to go at it. This is a cool little segment. I liked, well, not little segment. It was a cool big segment.
Yeah. I mean, you got a lot of big stars out there, and those guys are stars. You know, regardless of how you view the company or what company they used to work for, or the company they work for now. Those guys are big stars, and they're top talents too. I mean, all three of those guys can get in there and rock and roll. So, yeah, I was a big fan of that segment.
Dutch Mantell came out shortly after. Now, there's plenty to talk about in this. He teased that his name.
They see him rolling, creating. They used to name him Dirty.
Somebody asked me, why is he running the Zeb Coulter gimmick? I'm like, it's not a fucking gimmick. He uses the chair. But he teases that his name was Zeb Coulter. He says it. And then he names off several TNA alumni that had left before Impact, and he criticizes the lack of leadership and vision in the previous regime. And he says, this is actually very, very funny. He says, but then somebody left we never thought would, and a fan in the crowd screams, EC3! Like 10 minutes after EC3 was on the screen. Like EC3 just left.
Right.
So I did think that was funny. Dutch went on to say that he worked for the fans, and with their help, they would make Impact great again. Now, that was another thing. It seemed like there was an unusual amount of Donald Trump ass kissing on this show.
Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan of that. And I think they took off the again part to make Impact great. You know, it's one of those things. I'm not a fan of taking somebody else's catchphrase. You know, it's not creative to me to just use somebody else's shit. And, you know, I mean, the problem with Impact was never in the locker room. You know, it wasn't. And I don't think that that's what, you know, what Bruce and Dutch and the way, I don't think that's what they meant to say in some of the things that they were saying. But that is the way it came off to some of the guys. You know, and I know that for certain because I was back there and I heard some things. But the problem with
even what
Impact
Jeremy said at the beginning kind of alluded to that too. So this was like the third time we were kind of hearing this.
Yeah, and I think in repetition, you kind of got this like, well, you know, we need to, you know, we've done a lot of good things in the last couple of years too. You know, it isn't like that it's being garbage. You know, just nobody in that locker room can control any decision making. You know, any decisions that were made by the ownerships of the company. You know, so and that's what Dutch meant when he meant regime. He meant like the people, you know, behind the scene, not the locker room. But I don't think they really emphasize that enough, you know, because it wasn't the guys. There's been guys out there and girls out there killing it and doing really good stuff. Just, you know, the coaches and the, you know, the team owners were making dumbass decisions. There was nothing we could do about that. So, so I understand like some of the guys being kind of weirded out by that, but at the same time, I don't think it was really meant like that. You know, it came from a good place talking about, you know, that TNA Impact has done some really cool shit, you know, in wrestling, you know, no matter what, if you look historically, been some real moments and some really great matches. And there's been a lot of great talent to go in and out the door, you know, so it can't be just doom and gloom all the time. So they were kind of like trying to focus on, you know, some of the good things that have happened. And, I can see the interpretation, like I said, of some of the guys being a little weird, but I don't think it was meant that way. I think they just want to focus on the positives and keep everything going in a positive motion and in a positive spin on it, you know.
I thought last year Impact Wrestling was probably the second best wrestling show outside of SmackDown Live. And if you're talking January 1st to December 31st, it may have been right up there because the first half of the year, SmackDown was a pointless show. I thought thought Impact was better than ROH. I thought it was better than Raw. I thought it was better than Lucha Underground. And everything on the New Japan show I had already seen before, so I didn't really need to watch that. But yeah, as I mentioned, the Donald Trump thing, whether you're a Donald Trump fan or not, like I wouldn't have done this with Barack Obama, with George Bush, with Bill Clinton, anybody to possibly divide your audience, because we saw the Lashley thing. And for him as a heel, maybe it works because some people will either care about him. But then you had like the Siena bringing up the fake news thing, and it just felt a little egregious. I also wanted to bring up that opening video for Impact. Man, that kicked ass. That was really good.
Yeah, that was really well done. I like that guy in the green jacket that popped up a couple of times. He looked pretty cool. But that video too goes back to like what I was saying. There's been some really cool things like that, man. And it's real easy to forget because some fans get so caught up in the dirt sheet aspect of the business and what goes on behind closed doors that they forget about a lot of the good that's happened, that TNA has brought to the table and what impact it's going to bring to the table now. So, I mean, that video is really cool. I like that a lot.
So apparently Eli Drake took exception to these repeated segments. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, it was just like what I just said. He wasn't happy with the the kind of unspoken that it was good back in the day, hasn't been good for the last couple of years, and now these guys are going to make it good again. That's so I understand his interpretation. Like I said, I don't think it was meant that way, not completely. Maybe a little bit of it was. Because keep in mind, the guys that are in charge now were in charge a couple of years ago. So they want it to be that, or maybe they want it to be that, hey, it was good when we were here before, so we're going to make it good again. So I understand. I see both sides of it. Just maybe it'll turn into something. I don't know. I think Eli should use that. Maybe she would kick somebody's ass and develop an edge because of it. So who knows?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. The Hardys have been written off. They got lost in space and time.
Yeah, they got lost in space and time. Who knows where they'll show up? The event horizon.
So I got to ask you, the cease and desist thing, your feelings on that. Matt's not happy. He's livid. I can say that. Matt is livid.
Is he livid?
He's livid.
Are you sure he's livid?
Yeah, I'm positive he's livid.
You think you have a better grasp of how Matt Hardy feels than I do?
I think I have a pretty good grasp that Matt is livid.
We'll see.
And it's nothing in comparison to Rebby, and I don't have any grasp of
now, Rebby
you
is
don't
always
gotta have
livid.
a grasp. All you gotta do is go to her Twitter.
Rebby is always livid. She's if on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being when you're about to go nuclear, she walks around at about a 6 or 7 anyway. It don't take much to set that girl off. So it was some funny. I think her tweets were funny, man. I'm laughing at that shit. It's there's still a big kid in me that even when my buddies are fighting, I gotta watch and laugh.
Yeah.
I like Impact Company. They never done anything wrong to me. But Matt and Jeff are two of my closest friends in life, and Rebby's. Me and Rebby are we're tight too. I try to stay on her good side so I don't get cut. So it's one of those things I kind of in the middle, catching that shrapnel heat. But I'm gonna laugh at shit like that. It's gonna entertain me, and I don't know exactly what is going on in the legality of things, but I hope it kind of just gets squashed and goes away. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm not sure what it's doing for us as a company to be doing that. I don't know what the end game is or what the end goal is to do anything. I think Matt and Jeff worked their ass off. I know for a fact they worked their ass off at Impact, and deserve the benefit of the doubt going forward. And I'm sure some will say that I might be a little biased in that. Maybe I am. I really don't give a shit. But I know what I saw with my own eyes, and I know, like, with those total nonstop deletion, like especially that last one, that there were so many people involved in that project that just went out of their way to do things that are not, that they're not contractually obligated to do. They're not even in their job description to make things work. A lot of people work their ass off to make that thing happen, and nobody worked harder than Matt and Jeff. So I don't want anything to be taken from them. I want them to get all the credit in the world for that. And I just kind of wish things were a little bit more amicable. And this is like a bad breakup. When you gotta say one of your buddies is dating a female that you like, and then they have a bad breakup, and you're like, God, can't y'all just fucking get along? Just with the kids and the parents are divorced. That's what I feel like. not quite that powerful, but it's very similar. I just kind of wish it would be squashed and everybody go on about the business.
Also, Rebby is now selling "Fuck That Owl" shirts.
Yeah, that owl is on the endangered species list, and don't be surprised if PETA shows up at her door. If it was Halloween, I would fucking put on an owl costume and just go knock on the door right now.
If the Hardys end up in WWE and Rebby ends up there, and they don't do something involving an owl, and the New Day repeat saying "who" over and over again, that's a missed opportunity. Also, Ring of Honor giving her a microphone for 10 minutes was a missed opportunity.
Or they could bring in Who Morris.
Oh, man. Or just Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
There you go.
To play Who.
People are going to have to go deep for that one.
They will. They will. Yeah, I'm sure it's an awkward situation for you. I mean, ultimately, you don't want one friend to stab the other one with a fork, but really, if that's going to happen, what can you do? And I don't envy that position. I definitely don't. But what did you think of how they handled writing the Hardys off of TV? Because there's only so much they could do.
I thought it was good, man, because it still played into the craziness of the broken universe. It wasn't that they, with say like with Maria, she just wasn't there anymore, and she's got like whatever, she broke down mentally or some shit, whatever they said. I can't remember exactly what they said. They didn't just do that. They would, they got lost in the teleportation equipment or whatever. So it kind of played into the craziness of the broken universe and kind of put it over. So I'm not opposed to that at all. I thought that was the best way to go about it. And I feel good about that. I was like, okay, they're not just saying, hey, they're not here anymore. There was a creative way to spin it. And I thought that was cool on both sides. So that kind of gave me some hope that everything's going to be okay.
Now, it really looks like they're going to hitch their wagon to the El Patron Lashley EC3 thing. I think that's, personally, like I said, from an outsider, I think it's a good move. You got 3 guys who are stars.
Yeah, no doubt. So that'll be good, and I think there's a lot of different ways that they could go with that story. And when something's open-ended and unpredictable, that's always, to me, that's always the route to go.
Now I got to ask you a question, Shane. Why didn't you tell us you were going to be on Raw this week?
What was that?
Why didn't you tell us you were going to be on Raw this week? And why didn't you tell us that you were actually Sean Devari's younger brother? Here it is for you viewers that can see it. That's that Sensible Portions meal. That's Shane Helms right there. You can't tell me any different. It's you.
That's me.
It's you, Shane.
I got a really good picture of me and Davari at one of the WrestleManias, and it's when I had I had the beard from the Gregory Helms heel turn, and he kind of had that very similar build, and we're both just looking at each other side by side.
Next week, however, we're going to be talking Shane's WrestleMania experiences. Everything from getting hit with a frying pan to meeting The Rock backstage. Lots of cool stuff to talk about there. Send in your questions. Whatever it is that you want to know about in regards to Shane's WrestleMania experiences, send those in. Ask us. We'll have Shane answer them. Also, of course, follow him at ShaneHelms.com. Follow me at Sean Ross Sapp. Follow at Fightful Wrestle, at Fightful MMA, at Fightful Online. Guys, also register at Fightful.com to get free early access to shows like this. Until next time, guys, we're out.